Stretching. As you saw in yesterday's post, I noted that the Huberman Lab podcast talked about the various types of stretching and the overreaching comment that being able to find all your ranges of motion as you age is a really important part to strengthen stability. And by stability, I'm talking about not falling, which is so important if you have low bone density or if you don't know. So we are going to use a strap. You don't have to have a stretchy strap. You can have a very firm strap like a yoga strap. I have 2 sets of 2 blocks. I'm going to use those because at the end I'm doing a supported twist. I no longer like to twist with my knee going all the way to the ground. So you know what I'm talking about, that twist. So I'll show you how to do that. And I've got a half dome foam roller. We are only going to use that because it's so easy for me, but you can get a stack of books, roll up a mat, all kinds of things that you can use to put your forefoot on. So let's get started with just talking about what did Dr. Huberman talk about in terms of that static stretch and the research. So the research showed holding a static stretch for 30 seconds was a really important thing to do. So you do that 2 to 4 times. So in this little series, I'm going to do that twice. And you can, of course, add on. It also suggests that you try to do it for various areas of your body. So I've selected ones that I know are really good for my clients and their mobility. This first one is a toughie. People don't like to do it. I find that you can do this top of the toe stretch anywhere, like in your kitchen. So hold on to something and put that top of the toe down. You'll notice if you're here, there's not much pressure, you don't really feel much stretch, but as you come back, you start to feel that stretch. And I promise you, although this doesn't feel great in the beginning, it gets easier. When you are strong enough to do it without holding on, that's great. Staring at a one-colored wall actually is kind of disruptive to your visual system. So I suggest you not do that if you're going to try to do it hands-free. As you back your body up, it becomes more pressure and maybe you want to hold on to the wall. So while I've been talking, we've had the clock ticking. This seems like, whoa, so long, and I tend to not hold it that long and to go back and forth on and off. But for the purposes of this, let's give it a try. Holding for longer, 30 seconds. It's quite a long time. So we're almost there. And there we are. So I do have to keep looking at my clock. Getting the other leg set. I'm going to step forward a little bit. There we go. So being honest about when I started, and I'm waiting for my 30 seconds, knowing that one side actually feels worse than the other, so maybe I don't put quite as much pressure. This is the more arthritic side in my toes, so feels a little awkward, but I'm going to assume that this is a really good thing for me to be doing. Sometimes the thing that you feel like you don't want to do is the thing you actually need. So we're almost at our 30 seconds. It goes pretty quickly. Okay, so now we go back to the first side. I do kind of like having this wall to just give myself a little feeling and sense of security that I'm working more on the stretch than I am on balance today. Holding for 30 seconds is a long time, and I want to really get the full benefit of the stretch and not be teetering around. So just going and going. Giving that full stretch. Don't let your foot decide to twist out of it. So sometimes it pays to just look. Make sure you haven't twisted out of that stretch. And going to the other side. And I'll look, make sure I haven't twisted out of the stretch. We love to cheat, don't we? So here we are, holding and breathing. It's a great time to just notice the expansion in your ribs. Good. And since we're getting towards the end of this, we're going to go to our second stretch, which again, I do not generally hold for 30 seconds. The calf stretch. So remember, we want to have our hip and our ankle aligned. So I don't want to go so far forward that my hip is not over my heel or that side ankle bone. And then we wait. So this will be really interesting. I'm going to do an experiment and I'll report back to you all. I'm going to do this for at least 2 weeks of doing these 30-second holds. See if I feel any different. So just waiting. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Almost there. And oops, not yet. There we go. Okay, switching to the other side. Stepping on. The second I get into that stretch, I note the time. And we've got 30 seconds to go again. Notice that I'm not as far forward with my front foot as I was on the other side, and that is because my right side is a little tighter. And that happens for all of us, doesn't it? One side is tighter than the other. So we're almost there already. All it takes is a little bit of talking, and you can find yourself getting through something a lot faster. And here we go. Okay, we're going to switch again. And the second I get into the stretch, I let the timer start. So don't look at the camera the way I am. Looking forward, making sure that you're pretty much in neutral. And just letting this stretch take its time. Almost there. Great. Okay. The next one is a quad stretch. Now for the quad stretch, this is one of the ones that Andrew Huberman mentioned, and I only take issue with his directions because when you do a standing quad stretch and you grab your toes, you're actually taking some of the stretch out. If instead you grab your ankle, try to get your knees aligned, and then sort out a neutral spine, that is the best way to go. He does suggest that you can use a strap, but again, I'm going to say you want to use the strap actually at your ankle, not at the foot. So there we go. So now I have the counter started, and this is really quite a good stretch. Notice that I am trying to stay in a neutral spine. I'm not taking the stretch out of my leg. And my leg navigates a little forward to feel not quite so much stretch. So I do have to keep looking to see that my knees are side by side because my leg really wants to get out of the stretch and migrate forward. And we are there. So I'll switch to the other side. And here we go. So getting myself so that I'm all lined up, and now I start the clock. So notice I'm not trying to point my toes. And of course, my knee wants to navigate again. It's the way this goes. I think I need to pull a little more. Making sure I'm in a neutral spine. Almost there. We'll go back to the original side. Almost, almost. And switching sides. So again, stepping through, get those knees lined up, spine stacked up, and here we go. How does this feel for you? Hang in there. Almost there. All right, we have our last one to go. I'm actually going to turn this way. Makes it easier. Breathing through it. Marble traveling up helps me keep that pelvis from tipping into an anterior tilt. Keep that knee back. I can sense it now when it wants to travel forward. Almost there. And fantastic. We've done it. All right. So shake that out. Shake your legs out. Our next thing is really going to be tough. We're doing the cactus stretch at the wall. This is a really good upper body stretch. What I might have you do is take anything, a towel or just your wadded up stretchy band, put it right at your bra strap. So what we want to do, our feet are a little bit away from the wall, but we want to make sure that our rib cage doesn't change. So we don't want this object that's behind us to come off the wall. Then we look to find our cactus stretch. So mine is a little lower than shoulder height today. I can feel a lot of tension in my ribs wanting to come off the wall. So I'm gonna start, at least for this first one, a little lower. And so I'm going. If you can, try to get your wrist, your palm, and then your fingers on the wall. So this is a long hold. Remember the ribs. We don't want them flaring. Think about keeping those ribs in your body. Really hard to do. So maybe your fingers won't be on the wall in order to keep your ribs in the body. And over time, they'll get there. Okay, so we are just about there. I'm going to shake that out. Maybe even move around a little bit. Okay, put this guy back. And bring those hands maybe a little bit higher. Get those ribs down. Is your head on the wall? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on what your thoracic and cervical spine are like. Keep pushing into that object that you've got between your bra line and the wall, making sure your ribs don't flare up. Beautiful. All right, we're going to come onto the floor and do a lovely shoulder stretch. Sometimes it's a forearm stretch. I'm going to do it this way and then facing you. So I'll do it both ways. So we're here and we put our hands down on the ground and try to reach our thumbs towards the ground. And then maybe walk your knees back a teeny bit. Maybe that's all the stretch you need. Maybe you can get a little more into your shoulders by bringing your neutral spine body back a little bit. And then you hold. So I can barely see through my hair to see my timer. Oh, we're getting somewhere. Okay, let's come out of that. Shake that out. I'm gonna do the next one facing you. So the unfortunate thing is I'll have to look up to see the timer. But otherwise, I would suggest keeping your head facing down. I'm gonna walk my hands forward and then my bum back a little bit. Notice the timer and get going. So I'm trying to stay in a neutral spine right now. My fingers are actually shaking, or my thumbs are. Keeping my ribs in my body. shake that out. Okay, we are going to come onto the back. And in preparation for the twist that comes after the hamstring stretch, I'm just moving my blocks so that I'll be ready. What we'll do though is I'm going to lie down at a bit of an angle, remembering not to roll down onto my back, and we're going to do our hamstring stretch. So what we do here is first, my method is to move your leg and let your pelvis come with you, and then find yourself in a neutral spine. So your low back is not smushed into the floor. You're in a more neutral spine where you're really pretty heavy on your sacrum. Then you take your mostly straight leg. It can have a little bend in it, and if your hamstrings are super tight, maybe there's a lot of bend in it. Whatever works for you, and then start bringing the strap in the leg closer to your head. Finding your end point, now you start the timer. We're just going to hang here. Instead of pulsing the way I sometimes like to do, we're going to stay here. What's interesting is the research shows that super prolonged holds are not beneficial. So, just a thought. And there we go. Believe it or not, that was 30 seconds. That happened so quickly. So we'll switch to the other side. Find your neutral spine. Once you've secured it, start your timer. Remember, I've got a flexed foot. Helps me really get into the back side of my body. So I'm holding at the closest point towards my face without my back smushing into the ground below. "30 seconds goes by pretty quickly with something nice and easy and on the floor. Okay, we'll go back to the original side. Maybe this time I'll be able to come even closer. So I find my neutral spine, and then I come into my stretch. And I'm just holding in that spot. Just a few more seconds. Great. So last one here. Find that neutral spine. Get into your stretch and start the counter. I do feel like I went just a smidge further the second time. So just imagine if I was doing a third time, how great it would be. We're almost there. And we're going to end with our twist. And if you don't twist, that's fine. This is a good enough stretch for you. Everybody needs to have their own boundaries, and if twisting is not recommended for you, I totally get it. So here we are, and we'll do our 30 seconds again. So arms out at a T, and you know this stretch. I'm going to look away. I also need to take a peek at my clock, and then breathe. With each inhale, feel this open rib side expand, and each exhale, just feel your ribs getting nice and heavy. Do you feel the relaxation and the openness? Great. We'll go to the other side. And if you have to change where your blocks are, that's fine too. So I'm going to check my timer. and try not to curl my head up again, except one peak when I think we're at that mark. So again, inhaling, feeling your rib cage expand, and then exhaling, feeling everything get heavy. Your jaw's loose and your arms are heavy, your shoulders are heavy. Perfect. Yes. Okay. One last round. And I'll check that timer. Breathing and appreciating everything my body has done for me. Now this stretching helps me with my mobility. Stretching in a twist like this helps you look behind you, believe it or not, which can be an important thing. For instance, looking behind you when you're backing your car out. I know we all have cameras now, but it's still a good skill to have to be able to turn and see what's behind you. Letting each exhale really relax me. Great. So that is my version of an osteoporosis safe way.